It's exceptionally important. There's a lot of data that you have to analyse to ensure that you are one step ahead of the curve and are very, very competitive, because there's that much competition in the digital media these days for car sales specifically, that you've got to be very, very competitive. You've got to have the right image. So that is achieved by analysing the data that you've got. So you've got to look at how long you've had cars in stock, how many inquiries you've had on cars, things like that. So the reporting functions that we get from the dealer management software is really, really important to that, and that helps you ascertain where you should be pricing your car in the market. I can. There's always going to be the Luddites in any industry. And the motor trade, historically, that is the quickest way to do things. It's not the most efficient, but it is the quickest way to do things. But if you want to be efficient, you have to be digital these days. You have to be. I'd say it'll revolutionise your business, personally. If you are still working from pen and paper, so to speak, going fully digital will revolutionise it. You've got so much more control, so much more available information to you, and the ability for you to change as well. It gives you that. Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's definitely improved profitability because it's given us a lot more control over stock and information. So we've got a lot better monitoring of costs, prep times, how long cars have been in stock. All that sort of information at the click of a button literally just gives you a lot more control and enables you to streamline everything and therefore become more profitable. If we were on pen and paper, it probably in a day, I would say an 8-hour working day, probably saves us 4 or 5 hours a day in that respect.
Wow.
It's massive, to be fair. If you were to go back to pen and paper, the amount of bureaucracy and paperwork that you have to do is crazy. It's no longer just take a deposit, sign a logbook, here's your invoice, take the rest of the payment, and here's your keys. Those days are gone. There's a lot more involved. There is a heck of a lot of paperwork now. A lot of legal aspects that have to be considered and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely in any dealer's favour to go digital, definitely. Personally, yeah, I have actually. Which one thing I requested, I was speaking to Pippa about having some way of recording the number of inquiries against each vehicle. So, either on a report or on one of the lists, whereby then you'd be able to ascertain whether you should be looking closer at your pricing or your photos or your specification of that specific vehicle to ascertain why hasn't it had any inquiries in. And I think that's something that all dealers would find useful, because obviously if you've had a car sat there for overage amount of time, you want to know why, and having that highlights those cars that aren't drawing the interest of the customer. So that's something I personally requested and has been implemented, and I'm sure other dealers will be using it and finding it beneficial.